the investigation at Yuhuang Mountain kicked off immediately. The military hoped the Spiritual Practitioners Association would soon bring the mysterious figure known as Tyrant into the fold. Until then, they planned to keep the situation under wraps and run a parallel investigation of their own. Atop the rain-soaked summit, the head of the association informed Major Han Lai that one of their top pioneers was already attempting to establish contact. He then turned to Su Qingying and instructed her to brief the major on what she knew. Caught off guard, Su Qingying gasped quietly, her heart racing. Thrown into the spotlight, she quickly pieced together a report half-truths stitched with care. She linked the recent disturbance to the same pioneer who had resolved the contamination near the local university. Internally, she was a mess nervous that one wrong word might expose her secret alliance with Fang Yi. She explained she'd been trying to reach him, but he'd proven difficult to track down. She recalled finding a mutated rabbit's corpse, clearly killed by him, and correctly identified the presence of yang flame energy at the scene. Wrapping up, she promised to continue closing the gap between them and uncover how he'd managed to purify the university's gate. As she spoke, she prayed silently, relying on a mix of truth and deception to keep her story believable. Major Han Lai listened carefully, pondering the significance of a pioneer possessing the yang flame attribute. He seemed satisfied with her explanation and praised her for her effort, calling her a gifted young pioneer. Su Qingying saluted with sharp precision, responding that she was simply fulfilling her duty. Once the meeting concluded, Major Han Lai mentioned plans to spread false reports of natural disasters to keep the public from panicking. He also voiced concerns about posting spiritual energy intel online where it could be exploited by malicious actors. While the conversation continued, Su Qingying exhaled quietly, grateful the grilling was over. Meanwhile, at his home, Fang Yi activated his golden sun breathing technique to dry his soaked hoodie. In seconds, it gleamed with radiant warmth, dry, clean, and almost glowing. He then turned his attention inward, examining the changes within his body. Even after adding the powerful thunder element, the contrast was striking. His right hand now crackled with blue lightning, completely transformed and significantly strengthened. As he moved his fingers, small sparks danced between them. He could sense a breakthrough approaching. What surprised him most was how tame the thunder energy had become. It now obeyed him completely. This was a huge change from the violent pain he endured when he first awakened his yang power. He recalled the system's message. This thunder ability doubled damage against supernatural threats. He was eager to test it in battle. A sudden ping from his phone snapped him out of his thoughts. He picked it up, wondering what fresh chaos had arrived. After previous experiences, he'd set up custom alerts for emergencies, knowing that in this era, official warnings were more than just safety tips. For pioneers like him, each crisis was a new chance to grow, even if it meant putting his life on the line. He checked the breaking news. A massive explosion had rocked a chemical plant, spreading dangerous pollutants across the city. Official reports claimed there were no injuries and urged the public to stay calm. But Fang Yi didn't buy it. He browsed online forums where eyewitnesses described a chilling atmosphere around the blast site. Some spoke of an unnatural, evil presence. Others backed up the claim. The words "cold and evil aura" stood out to Fang Yi. A horrifying memory from his previous life surfaced. Blood. A monstrous hand. Chaos. He recalled hiding in terror from a giant, crimson, many-eyed beast that tore everything apart. He knew exactly what it was, a mutated creature, once plant or animal, that gained awareness and transformed into a deadly predator. They preferred to strike under the cover of night and were far more dangerous than the mutated rabbit he had faced. Realizing the urgency, Fang Yi clenched his lightning-charged fist. He couldn't allow this creature to grow stronger. Tonight, he would face it. Surrounded by a field of crackling electricity, he stood ready to test his new skill, a 200% critical damage boost. That same rainy night, empty streets glistened beneath the storm. Blurs raced across the slick roads, and an elite squad in black cloaks moved like shadows through the city. They were the destroyer squad tasked with hunting anomalies. One operative reported that they had been tracking a target named Candle Knight, but had lost it. Its ability to vanish into darkness made it incredibly difficult to follow. The operative added new intel. The creature gave off a low, sizzling sound and preyed on humans. High above the city, lightning flashed as the team landed on a rooftop. Their leader, a hard-faced man with silver hair and a scar, knew the storm gave the creature an advantage. With determination, he declared they had to stop it. At the central command station, an operator received the update. The report on Candle Knight was finalized. An extermination directive was immediately issued, priority level red. The target needed to be neutralized within 12 hours. The squad received instructions: continue the hunt, but don't risk unnecessary casualties. With renewed urgency, they dashed across rooftops. The squad leader paused to check a glowing digital map. Red dots marked multiple active threats. 12 hours wasn't ideal, but it was the best the stretched resources of the nation could offer. Just as they neared Candle Knight's last known location, a warning came in. The area was currently under the jurisdiction of the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association. A photo of Su Qingying popped up on the screen. She and her team were already on site, monitoring pioneers. The squad leader acknowledged the update and requested her assistance, noting her reputation for exceptional work. Elsewhere, Su Qingying raised an eyebrow, surprised by her sudden fame. Back in the field, the destroyer squad waited under the rain. Soon, Su Qingying and her cloaked team arrived, taking position on a rooftop above. With a playful smirk, she asked if they were the ones dragging her out for some overtime. The squad leader wasn't amused. He firmly explained that Candle Knight was a man-eater. This was no casual favor. One of Su Qingying's teammates shot back, questioning his rude approach. Su Qingying turned to leave, sarcastically suggesting that since they seemed so capable, maybe they didn't need her after all. Her team followed, murmuring to one another, some concerned about her sharp attitude, others insisting their missions were just as risky. Panic flashed across the squad leader's face. He called out, apologizing and pleading for help. He emphasized how deadly Candle Knight was and how much they needed her renowned tracking skills. If they failed, he warned, innocent lives would be lost. Cloak's squad stands on a rooftop overlooking the city in the rain. One of them detects something and announces they've found it. The portal unleashes a strange force, spiraling down into the city. A creature with red eyes emerges in the shadows. File number 7. Candle Knight likes darkness, dampness, eating people. The squad receives the command. The man confirms. Destruction squad, begin operation. As they prepare to engage, the monster Candle Knight stirs. Its glowing red eyes fixate on the squad's direction. Candle Knight leaps from its position with explosive speed. One of the squad members shouts that the target has detected them and commands the squad to deploy formation. The monster Candle Knight lunges forward, but members of the squad dash in from multiple directions. One shouts east, others respond in unison, surrounding the target from all sides with precise coordination. The squad yells in unison, as they close in on the monster with intensity. As the team positions themselves, Candle Knight lets out a roar, and one squad member rises from the shadows to kill it. The strike hit hard at the monster, as he lets out a sharp squeal and pounces in response. Then, the monster swipes through debris, showing its physical power. Its eyes glow red as it snarls in rage. With a furious roar, Candle Knight spins into a vortex of energy, launching into a terrifying spiral attack. Bai King warns the squad to dodge quickly, shouting that a soundwave attack is incoming. A spiraling shockwave tears through the battlefield, sending squad members flying as the vortex smashes the surroundings. Bai King checks on their leader, asking if he's okay. The captain, bleeding from his arm, admits that if he hadn't backed off in time, The impact would have shattered his bones. He warns that with its dark attributes and destructive force, Candle Knight will cause catastrophe if it stays in the city. Candle Knight's body glows green as it channels corrosive dark energy. A massive green shockwave erupts beneath the creature as it unleashes its power into the ground. The monster starts digging rapidly, melting through the earth with corrosive breath in an attempt to escape. Bai King shouts that it's trying to burrow underground. Another warns that its dark attribute corrodes anything it touches instantly, and they lack a high-tier counter attribute to stop it. A squad member explains that while Candle Knight can corrode the ground, it can't tunnel out instantly. He urges the team not to break formation, reminding them their role is intel and tactical support. Another soldier shouts for everyone to stay alert. Suddenly, glowing red eyes emerge from the darkness. Candle Knight bursts out violently and strikes, knocking a squad member into the air with a fierce blow. The leader yells for everyone to chase the monster before it escapes. As they follow the green energy trail, a surge in spiritual energy is detected. Reaching a rooftop, one member notices the spike and commands the others to wait outside while they follow the target in. Inside an abandoned factory, the lead scout prepares to scan for spiritual energy readings before proceeding. The leader asks if the device on the Bai King wrist is the new auxiliary tool from the association. She confirms and explains that the average squad can handle anomaly levels up to 50. The creature they chased was just below that at 48. Suddenly, the watch spikes to 80 and continues rising, shocking them. She realizes there's more than one anomaly present. As the group enters the factory, a dark serpent looms above. They both turn in alarm as a loud crash behind them confirms they're not alone. Another threat has arrived. Bai King realizes they were tricked. Candle Knight lured them in to trap them with another anomaly. She tells the group they must retreat immediately. The leader suggests heading to the door. If the anomaly wants to stop them, it will have to reveal itself. Together, they fire an attack to force the door open. As they run, Bai King is struck by something and collapses, gasping in pain. She realizes her senses and body are being overtaken by the poison gas as a dark creature looms in the mist. She calls out to the others but gets no reply. Alone in the mist-filled factory, she suspects they're nearby but unable to respond. Holding her communicator, she pieces it together. Candle Knight lured them in, but the poisonous place belongs to another anomaly, likely a giant serpent. The serpent's face emerges from the toxic fog. She realizes that unlike Candle Knight's dark powers, this mist is poisonous and began affecting them the moment they entered. The gas not only paralyzes senses but drains spiritual energy rapidly. She knows if she tries to attack now, her energy will run out. She's already close to collapse. Lying on the ground, she questions what kind of anomaly could possess such intelligence and overwhelming power. It feels like they're being toyed with. Her body collapses completely. A faint light breaks through the ceiling above, but she's too weak to move. As her eye barely opens, struggling to stay conscious as she senses something approaching. Fang Yi crashes down from above, descending with confidence. He lands firmly on the ground, cracking the floor beneath him with sheer impact. Standing tall, he faces the looming serpent and confirms it's a dark attribute anomaly, unfazed and fully in control. The black serpent lunges with jaws wide open, aiming to devour the intruder. He dodges swiftly, but a second creature, Candle Knight, crashes into him from above. He's forced back, growling in frustration as both enemies close in. Realizing the truth mid-battle, he confirms there are two anomalies working together. He smirks, realizing one anomaly lures while the other harvests. He mocks Candle Knight, biting him, saying it must enjoy it too much. Power surges through him as he activates thunder energy. He slashes through the serpent, burning its body with a blazing attack enhanced by thunder. With lightning crackling, he turns to the next enemy and challenges it to handle fire next. The dark serpent grew furious after being struck by Fang Yi. In its rage, it lunged forward, baring its venomous fangs in a vicious attack. But Fang Yi effortlessly dodged the strike, and the serpent crashed hard into the wall. Without hesitation, Fang Yi unsheathed his sword, eyes sharp and cold, preparing to counter. He launched a powerful strike. His blade crackled with energy and released a massive bolt of lightning that surged straight toward the serpent's head. The attack was devastating. The serpent's head was cleaved in two, and green blood gushed out, splattering the ground. Everything seemed to have ended until something strange began to happen. Fang Yi narrowed his eyes. "Just as I suspected," he muttered. The serpent's mutilated body twitched, and then its severed head began to regenerate rapidly, reattaching itself with horrifying speed. As Fang Yi watched the grotesque scene, he unleashed another violent lightning strike. The serpent recoiled, clearly shaken and confused. Electricity surged across its entire body, causing it immense pain. Its fangs clenched, and its thick scales began to crack under the pressure. Fang Yi gave a cold smile. "Thankfully, I already figured it out. This serpent's black aura is stronger than Candle Knight's." The current running through its body intensified, and with a deafening crack, its head exploded. Shards of hardened scale shot out like bullets. Fang Yi deflected several of them with his sword. "Just now," he thought, "I used the Tang blade and activated the inner tooth's power, then withdrew the force at the last moment. By channeling thunder energy through the blade, I sent it into the serpent's body. I used the Tang blade again, this time triggering the flame within to block the backlash." Candle Knight had been terrifying dark, cunning, bloodthirsty, but ultimately limited. He hadn't fully evolved, only capable of taking down a few people. But this snake, Fang Yi's thoughts deepened as the serpent suddenly erupted into flames. Earlier, a scale had struck his shoulder, injuring him slightly. It infuriated him. How could that thing have harmed him? While healing, he reflected. "As I thought, this thing's mutated. It's evolved cunning, silent, and deadly. Its venom paralyzes silently and kills without warning. But I felt it, thanks to the continuous flow of the golden sun breathing technique. The yang flame energy neutralizes poison, and the thunder purifies. Combined, they create a unique sense of danger. My body feels the threat before it lands. But others, even with some defense, this venom might be fatal. This serpent must have grown this strong in secret, possibly using a level 3 ghost axe power and ambush tactics. Working with Candle Knight, they set a perfect trap for elite hunters. It must have devoured many, including vanguards who never got to join the main force. But no matter how sinister it was now, it would burn. The inner flame is powerful, but the thunder's triple impact. Far more effective. Maybe I really am among the strongest in the vanguard team now." The serpent's charred remains crumbled to ashes. Fang Yi stared silently, a strange mix of anger and sadness on his face. Just as he was about to inspect the remains, he heard a sound. It was Su Kingying. She was injured but not fatally unconscious, yet stable. Fang Yi approached her slowly, thinking she was part of the association's group. Why is she pretending to be unconscious? He leaned closer and said aloud, "Why are you acting like you're dead?" Su Kingying's eyes fluttered open. Embarrassed, she quickly covered her face with her hands. She stood up, flustered and ashamed. Fang Yi smiled and told her, "You're stronger than your teammates. You're doing good work out here." She blushed and replied softly, "Thank you for your compliment." Behind them, the serpent's body was now nothing but ashes. Fang Yi turned and said, "Looks like your team's safe now. I'm heading out." But Su Kingying called out, "Wait, I still have questions for you." Fang Yi didn't stop. Walking quickly, he replied, "Not now. Too many eyes around." He dashed out of the ruined factory, leaping from rooftop to rooftop. Good thing she didn't see me trying to absorb the dark essence. That chill, that discomfort, it was revolting. Maybe my body rejected it. Maybe that's why I couldn't absorb it, and I expelled it instead. There was no reaction at all. Whatever it was, just let it go. I'll think about it at home. Still, I didn't get a good look at her face. She probably still doesn't trust that company either. Su Kingying rushed over to her unconscious teammate and slapped his cheek. "Hey, wake up, it's over." The teammate slowly opened his eyes, a visible red mark still on his cheek. Their leader, wounded but conscious, turned around shocked by what he saw. "What is going on?" he gasped. "Where is all this pure yang energy coming from?" Su Qingying stepped forward and explained, "As you saw, a vanguard came to help us. I think he's my target." She added, "My real mission was to identify a vanguard with a rare high-tier yang attribute." She still didn't even know Fang Yi's name. The leader, serious now, said, "His identity remains a mystery, but he saved our lives." Behind him, another teammate spoke up in disbelief. He killed both Candle Knight and that serpent alone. What kind of monster is he?" The leader nodded thoughtfully. "Speaking of which, where's Candle Knight's corpse? We should clean up and report everything to the association." Just then, he stepped on something that released a surge of intense electric energy. He jumped back, startled. Looking down at Candle Knight's body, he asked, "You said this was yang energy, but it's electric way too intense." Su Qingying replied, "Electric energy is an advanced elemental attribute. It overwhelmed Candle Knight instantly." The leader looked rattled. Can one person really defeat two high-level monsters that easily? Su Qingying's heart began to race. Sweat formed on her brow. No, that's not it. How am I even supposed to explain that only one person did all this? No one would believe me. A person with two top-tier elemental powers, that's unheard of. Just one would already make someone a genius. A vanguard with dual high-level attributes, that's beyond rare. What kind of monster is he? The impossible proof was right in front of them. The burning skeleton of the giant serpent was the work of a young flame walker, while the electrified body of Candle Knight was the clear mark of a thunder tyrant. She imagined the man wielding the flame walker of the sun in one hand and the thunder tyrant's might in the other. An unbeatable genius, a one-man force. When the association's backup squads arrived, Su Qingying silently thanked herself for leaving people stationed outside. If she'd stayed too long without checking in, they might have assumed the worst. But one look told her the truth: they hadn't expected to find anyone alive. This was meant to be a body retrieval. Behind her, two teammates stirred, still weak from the serpent's poison. Groggy but breathing, they rushed to her side, eyes wet with relief. Their captain was alive, that was enough. With the threat gone, the team shifted to investigation. Devices scanned the area, capturing spiritual energy traces and mapping the battle damage. A forensic analyst soon approached Su Qingying and the destroyer squad leader. The results were clear: both monsters here and in a separate battle had been killed by the same person. Energy residue, fighting style, and precision all matched. The odds of anyone else doing it? Less than 1%. The two captains exchanged uneasy looks. One person had destroyed two high-tier beasts, each strong enough to wipe out their squads with terrifying speed and power. Su reported to her superior, confirming the mysterious university cultivator was the same figure known as Tyrant. At headquarters, her superior listened in silence before giving his order: stand down. Tyrant had saved her team, neutralized threats, and shown no hostility. That was not the behavior of an enemy. Su Qingying accepted the directive out loud, at least, but before ending the call, she voiced one last thought that had been gnawing at her since the mountain mission. Back then, in the back range, she'd sensed a wave of energy so intense she'd first assumed it came from a spiritual weapon. She'd dismissed it at the time, but now, considering Tyrant's dual attribute power, she wasn't so sure. Her superior's interest sharpened instantly. She clarified the aura was distinctly young in nature, and it hadn't felt separate from him. It felt like it was his. That meant something profound if it wasn't a weapon he'd obtained, but one he had forged from his own young energy. Then he had reached the spirit creation realm. And cultivators of that level were so rare there were fewer than 3 confirmed across the globe. If Tyrant truly possessed that ability and possibly even a hidden third attribute, it would shatter what they believed about human limits. Normally, three attributes repelled one another, making coexistence impossible. No one in recorded history had ever achieved it. The fact they'd found no third energy source from his weapon might actually mean there wasn't one at all. It could be entirely born of his own power. When the call ended, the superior leaned back, his face shadowed with concern. If someone like Tyrant ever turned against them, humanity might not have a defense strong enough to stand in his way. In a small apartment across the city, Fang Yi stood under a hot shower, steam curling around him as he let the day's tension drain away. His body felt refreshed, but his mind was restless. Less than a year remained until the full resurgence of spiritual energy. The world was already changing, monsters appearing more often, strange events stacking one after another. He flicked his fingers, drying his clothes instantly with a golden wave of yang energy. He knew he wasn't alone across the nation. New cultivators were emerging, some trained by mentors, others fumbling through on their own. He remembered the reckless men at Lava River. Once someone's body connected to the spiritual realm, their perception shifted. They could sense the undercurrents shaping the world, even when ordinary people remained blind. Some pioneers had already advanced quietly to the one-star Ghost Axe realm without official help. The government knew they couldn't fully control such people, but they also knew they couldn't ignore them. The balance was delicate. The association's spiritual arm of the government still worked in secrecy. The public had no idea what was truly unfolding. Tell them too much, and panic might explode. Tell them too little, and they'd be unprepared for the storms ahead. For Fang Yi, the bigger danger wasn't the monsters, it was the government's fear of the truth. And he understood that fear all too well. But something else unsettled him more. The beasts were evolving faster than expected. The ones he'd fought carried traces of shadow energy, a dark element subtype incompatible with his current abilities. His system labeled it as something he couldn't absorb yet. These creatures weren't mindless, they had tactics, coordination, and a disturbing new hunger for pioneer flesh. But even they paled compared to the horrors Fang Yi remembered from his past life, monsters that could raise civilizations. If he hadn't stepped in today, Su Qingying's team would have been wiped out. The thought sharpened his resolve. His system had called the dark attribute temporarily unusable, meaning there might come a day when he could master it. That power would be crucial for the battles to come. For now, his arsenal included the radiant golden sun breathing technique, the crackling divine thunder tempering, and the ferocious crimson flame blade. As a 3-star Ghost Axe cultivator, he was ahead of most, but he knew it still wasn't enough. His thoughts were interrupted by a call from his aunt. Her daughter, his cousin, was coming to the city for school. He remembered her faintly, quiet, serious. She'd be staying in his spare room. Elsewhere, in a dimly lit room glowing with the light of a computer monitor, a young woman with long, claw-like nails typed rapidly. A hoodie shadowed her face as she ended a polite phone call with her mother. Yes, she'd head out tomorrow. Yes, she'd bring the snacks. She switched to a chat labeled Spiritual Energy Revival Martial Vanguard, posting a quick update that she'd be staying with her cousin. Another tab showed a news article about a place called Death Town, where 3 more people had vanished after a bizarre pork beast challenge. The bloody images made her eyes narrow. Yonghuo Town. Interesting. Her mom stepped in, reminding her to pack. She muttered that a hotel would have been better, but her mom refused. Staying with her cousin was safer. With a sigh, she accepted, getting the usual lecture to behave and help out. Glasses flashing in the light, she thought, whatever her cousin was like, he couldn't possibly be more trouble than a monster. The next afternoon, under a clear sky, a young woman with long hair and glasses wheeled her suitcase down a busy street. She stopped in front of a tall apartment building, checked her phone, and confirmed the address. Looking up at the structure, she drew a deep breath and murmured, "So this is it." She was about to meet the cousin she could barely remember.